Good evening. Police have named 2 suspects in one of Hampshire's longest unsolved murder cases. Michael Shalamak disappeared from Bitton in Southampton in 1992. Afterwards, his wife received a letter from someone called Helen saying he was with her abroad. Police want to hear from anyone who knows about the letter or perhaps even who wrote it. They believe Kenneth Reagan and William Hornsey were directly involved in his disappearance. The pair are already in jail for murdering a family and disposing of the bodies in the sea near Bournemouth Pier.
So we believe that this letter holds the key, and actually if you know who wrote that letter, if you were put up to writing that letter, if you were cajoled into writing it or put it under pressure or recognise the handwriting, it's really important that we identify who you are.
The Chief Executive of Southern Health will keep her job. The Trust and its leadership came under fire over the way it investigated around 1,000 patient deaths in its care. Since then, there have been calls for Katrina Percy to resign. Families of those who died say it is beyond belief and they are shocked that she is staying. Police believe a couple from Chidham in Sussex were killed in their home, which was then set alight in a row over money. At the inquest into the deaths of Dennis and Sheila Jefferson, a detective said he believed the motive was financial. The 70-year-olds were stabbed and beaten by Mrs. Jefferson's brother-in-law before their bodies were burned. He was injured in the fire and later died in hospital. The family of a 26-year-old from Brighton who died after an attack in Mexico say they are still trying to find out what happened to their son. George Van Day, who suffered from Asperger's syndrome, died after an assault a year ago this week. His father says he's disgusted by the lack of effort from the authorities to track down his killers. More now from Andy Dickinson.
This is the Paso del Nor Bridge, a border between Mexico and the US, and where George Van Day collapsed following an assault, later to die a year ago. His father Michael still battling to come to terms with a death that seems as senseless as it was violent.
Well, it's a mix of sadness and anger. We're very sad what happened to George. We're very angry about the way he was treated. It's appalling.
26-year-old George Van Day suffered from Asperger's syndrome and flew into Mexico on June 17th last year, where he was refused a visa to cross into America. But what happened next remains frustratingly unclear.
He has collapsed. I've seen it with my own eyes. The police have shown me the cameras. Him coming back from the American side and collapsing. Never again consciousness. There's no reason to suppose he was anywhere in the custody of the El Paso police.
By the time Michael arrived to be with his son, it was already too late. He's been trying to discover how he died ever since, working with the Foreign Office, who told us our staff in Mexico and London continue to support the family of the British national who died in Mexico on the 27th of June 2015. We remain in regular contact with the Mexican authorities who are investigating the death. However, for Michael's family, any investigations, whether here or across the Atlantic, are proving shockingly inadequate.
We have had an inquest, and he did die as a result of being attacked, a traumatic brain injury. It's all very well to turn the cheek, but how far do you take that? When someone's been murdered, you get a whole pack of lies.
George Van Day was fascinated with America. His parents remain desperate for justice and the truth. Andy Dickinson, ITV News, Brighton.
No decision will be made on whether Heathrow or Gatwick will get a new runway until after a new Conservative leader is appointed. It was expected over the coming weeks, but has been delayed because of the Brexit result and Mr Cameron's departure.
I understand the disappointment that we've not made a decision. It wasn't going to be possible to do it. So long as we make the decision by October, November, we will be in a position of delivering on what David said as far as the new capacity that is needed and on that timescale. So it becomes a bit tighter, but it's not impossible to deliver what Davis actually said was necessary.
From planes to trains, and Southern Trains is the worst rail service in the country, according to passengers. The results of their latest survey are out, and it's bottom of the National League, along with the South Eastern. Southern Rail services have suffered weeks of disruption because of strikes and sickness levels. Tomorrow, events will take place here and in France to remember the start of the Battle of the Somme 100 years ago, which ended in a staggering loss of life. Sadly, though, the killing began the day before, on this day in 1916. Those in the firing line were soldiers from the south. Derek Johnson has their story.
Flowers and wreaths laid by descendants of Nelson Carter at his grave in France. He won the Victoria Cross, dying a hero's death, falling with other troops from Sussex in a disastrous attack 100 years ago today.
He went out into no man's land and carried 6 or 7 men back on his shoulders to safety. He went to go out again on the 8th occasion and was unfortunately shot in the chest, fell back into the trench and died.
Oh, well, I've been in tears this morning, so... but yes, it's been lovely. So proud to be here.
If you look at the casualty figures, something like 360 odd killed and another 800, about 1,100 altogether casualties. Virtually every village, parish in Sussex has someone serving. That's why it's so important.
The soldiers from the South Down battalions had signed up in a wave of patriotic fervour. They died on this land, part of a plan to fool the Germans about the location of the big push. A series of events are taking place here in France and at home over the next few days, including the unveiling of a memorial stone honouring Nelson Carter, all to remember the battle that became known as the day that Sussex died. Derek Johnson, ITV News, Richebourg.
And on tomorrow's programme, we will have a special show from the Somme. Here's Fred to tell us more.
Tomorrow sees the 100th anniversary of the start of the Battle of the Somme, the bloodiest battle in history. This is the crater at Lochnagar, where the big push first began to try and bring a swift conclusion to the Great War. Never happened, of course. On the first day alone, 20,000 British Tommies lost their lives, and over the course of the conflict over the next 5 months, 1 million men on both sides were to die. Tomorrow, members of the royal family come to France to pay their respects, and we shall be here at the crater of Lochnagar for a service of commemoration and what promises to be a very, very emotional day. Do join us then.
We certainly will, Fred. Well, in sports, Southampton have announced Frenchman Claude Puel is their new manager. The 54-year-old has signed a 3-year deal with Eric Black as his assistant. Puel has previously won the French League with Monaco and reached the Champions League semi-finals with Lyon.
I know the Champions League. I hope that it's a possibility with in the future for Southampton to play the Champions League. But it's important to improve with these players.
The Winchester Festival gets underway on Saturday, a 9-day celebration of music, drama and the arts. Among the highlights, the Young Soloists competition, showcasing the best of young musical talent here in the South. Rachel Hepworth went to watch the finalists in action.
It's a celebration of the very best young musical talent and heartening to see the future's in good hands. This is one of the final rehearsals with the Winchester Symphony Orchestra, and for 17-year-old Matthew, it's about holding your nerve.
Excited terror, I think is the best way to describe it. It's it's a nice buzz.
For the 3 finalists, it's a rare chance to perform with a full orchestra and a debut for 18-year-old Nicholas.
It's the first time I've ever performed with an orchestra, so that's quite exciting. It's just a great opportunity, really, so I'm looking forward to that.
Dozens of youngsters applied for the competition, but were whittled down to just 3. Oboist Luke is hoping to study earth sciences at university, but he believes everyone can benefit from learning an instrument.
Just enjoying playing from an early age is important. Definitely, I encourage people to play instruments, and being part of an orchestra from an early age makes so many friends.
The 9-day festival ends with an ambitious performance of Benjamin Britten's community opera Noah's Flood, involving schools, professionals and enthusiastic amateurs. It's a huge collaboration by the Hampshire Music Service.
So we've got all sorts here. Some people have dusted up their recorders from when they used to be at school, and eventually we'll have 200 people in it.
And And of course, it's an opportunity to encourage more young musicians in the future. Rachel Hepworth, ITV News in Winchester.
Now, how about this for a fairy tale ending for Tinkerbell, the lost cat from Dorset? The rather camera-shy Tabby from Bournemouth disappeared from her home in 2011, leaving her family distraught. But she was recently found by a Good Samaritan sleeping in a Range Rover on an industrial estate several miles away. Well, thanks to her microchip and the Cats Protection League, and despite the fact that the family had moved house, they've now been reunited nearly 5 years later.
As soon as I got her home and put her in a room with us on her own, just to come out in her own time, she was out, run across the room, rubbing all over us, over our arms, getting our scent back. And I honestly know that she knows us. She recognises and remembers us. We never thought we'd see her. Honestly, we never thought we'd see her.
Great news. Weather forecast time now. Here's Simon.
From blizzards to pool, driving through Europe. Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
Well, as we hurtle towards July, the early June stats suggest it was wetter, duller, but a little bit warmer than average. Full information on my blog on the website. But there's more rain to come overnight tonight. This band will push its way eastwards, mostly light and patchy, perhaps an odd heavier burst in there. And the good news is it should have pretty much gone by the time we wake up tomorrow morning. Plus, because of the cloud cover and because of the breeze, it will be a fairly mild night with temperatures up into double figures. So tomorrow morning, lingering cloud, yes, but that's going to break up steadily through the morning. By the afternoon, some decent sunny spells. Chance of catching an odd shower, but most of us staying dry. Temperatures once again up in the high teens, but still quite breezy. As for your high tide times, in Poole, 20 to 8 in the morning, 10 past 8 in the evening.
Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather. Keeping a close eye on summer. The Pollen Count, sponsored by Ilogy Eye Drops.
Well, with a lot of dry weather through tomorrow, those pesky grass pollen levels will once again be very high, and that's the plan as we head through the weekend as well. But of course, under any showers, we will see the levels drop.
And that's it for now. Don't forget, I'm back with your late news just at 10 to 11 tonight. See you later. Bye-bye.